Today's agenda is about Safari on iPhone. Safari on iPhones is a great resource. It's designed for that mobile smartphone screen that you have on an iPhone. We'll take a look at browsing and searching. We'll take a look at tabs. We'll take a look at what the share icon can do for you. We'll take a look at what that little AA icon does. And then we'll check a few of the settings that are available for you in the settings for Safari. Come standard with every iPhone that's shipped, come standard with every iPad, it comes standard with every Mac. On iPads, in case you're wondering, the iPad typically displays a full screen view of a website because it has a larger screen. And on iPhones, it typically displays what's called a mobile view or smartphone-oriented view. And websites have a little tool that can detect what device is coming to view their web page. And so if it's a smartphone that's coming to view a website, they'll deliver and ship a mobile view of the website to the smartphone. If it's a desktop view or a full screen view like an iPad typically is, they will ship a desktop view of the web page. And so you'll see slightly different navigation. You'll see things like the hamburger and a few other things that don't normally show up on a desktop view of a web page on Safari. And we'll take a look at those and explain what all the icons are and all the navigation tools as well. There is a resource called an iPhone user guide. Let me pull this up on my website here and see if I can find it again. I think I had it up on Safari here, and I'll pull it up for you, because if you ever really wanted to read everything about the entire device, you can, but it's a pretty big guide. I'll give you a few ideas here. This is the official page for the iPhone user guide. In case you're wondering where the manual is, it's on the web because they change it. It is searchable, but to give you an idea of the table of contents, it's pretty extensive. Welcome, introduction, models, what's new in the latest version of the iOS operating system. Your phone uses an operating system supplied by Apple called iOS. Setup, getting started, basics, personalization, text and graphics, apps, Siri, safety, family sharing, screen time, accessories, using it with your iPad, your Mac PC, CarPlay, accessibility, privacy and security, restart, update, reset, restore, safety, and of course their copyright. Safari fits under the apps. And these are all of the apps that Apple supplies with a iPhone. It's a pretty extensive list. I don't think I could cover it in an hour, but here's Safari, and these are the things in Safari. This is a really powerful computer we're holding in our hands. If you ever want to learn more, just go to support.apple.com or do a search for Apple iPhone, manual, and it'll change it. I haven't looked at annotating and saving a web page as a PDF, so we'll try and see if we can do a few of these things and take advantage of them. Safari is this icon in the lower right. It's usually in the dock because it's such a commonly used application, and I have not taken the app out of my dock. I always leave it there because I always go to it so often. So if you want to open up Safari, you just tap on the icon, it brings up Safari. What it'll do is it'll bring up the last thing you were doing in Safari. A lot of people don't understand this about the mobile operating systems, both Android and iOS. And I'm going to give you a secret that developers know about the operating system. I was an app developer at one time. What Windows and Mac's desktops do is when you start an application, that application gets loaded into the RAM of your system and stays there. And even if you close the application, sometimes there's a little bit of memory that's still used up by that application. And so applications that can accumulate and use up more and more RAM over time, and it's usually not much of a problem anymore, but unless you reboot your computer, you may not clear out your RAM on your desktop or your laptop. Tablets and smartphone operating systems work differently. Tablets are designed a little bit differently. One application on an iPhone or an iPad or an Android typically takes control of everything in the device while it's running. And that means that all the other applications are put on suspense or hold, and they don't use up resources except for maybe picking up mail. Even if you're using Safari or browsing the web, your email will get picked up by your device, and so it'll communicate over the internet. I wear hearing aids that are connected by Bluetooth, and even though I may not be listening to anything on my phone, the Bluetooth communication keeps up. I had a friend that uses a blood sugar reader that's connected to his phone by Bluetooth, and asked me, why is my phone battery go down so much? And I said, it's because of your Bluetooth connection. That wireless communication, even though it doesn't look like it's actually doing anything, that network is taking place between an app and the device are communicating all the time. So Wi-Fi will take up a little bit of resource, Bluetooth will take up a little bit of resource, but only one application runs at a time. Those are called background tasks. When you swipe up and you go from Safari, say, to Notes, Safari stops. It doesn't use up any more resources. But when you go back to Safari, you will go back to the last screen you were looking at. So if you were visiting a web page, say bobology.com, and we want to get rid of Safari, we go to Notes and we come back to Safari, it will come back to the last web page you were looking at. So keep that in mind when you're using applications on your smartphone, is that it will typically go back to the last thing. Unlike on a desktop, if you had Safari or Chrome or Edge or any other web browser open on your desktop or laptop, and you closed the web browser, when you opened it up again, it would open up to a home screen. That's not the way Safari or web browsers work on mobile devices. They open back up to the last thing you were doing. So we happened to look at something that I was using here. I had a bookmark saved, and I was able to tap on it directly. So the most important area of Safari is this bottom text field right here. This is where you would type in something. If I wanted to type in a website, I can tap in it and I bring up my keyboard. I can tap the X to delete what I want, and I can go to, say, Apple, and it'll start to suggest suggestions. Now it says Google suggestions. In case you hadn't heard about it, Google is paying Apple billions of dollars a year to make Google the standard search engine that's used in Safari. So when you use Safari to search the internet, this text field not only can be used to enter a specific website, but it can be used to search, and it is using Google search. I'll show you in settings where you go to change it, but it already anticipated that I was looking for Apple. So I'll tap go, and it'll bring up the Apple website. You'll see a small lock here that tells you the website is secure. You may see some navigation icons that are part of the website, like this little mini hamburger here, or a search, or a basket for shopping. But those are part of the website. The actual part of Safari is what's below this line right here. So Safari includes a couple of buttons at the bottom, a back button. If I want to go back to the previous website or previous web page I was looking at, I could do that. If I wanted to share this web page, I click the share icon. If I wanted to look at my bookmarks or bookmark and view bookmarks that I have or other items that I've saved, I would look at this open book. That's the bookmark. And this little icon here with one square layered on top of the other is the tabs icon. Now I've opened up Apple. If I want to leave Apple open as a web page, but I want to go to another web page and not close it, I could tap the tab icon. The difference being is that if I type over this apple.com and open up a new web page, I will not be visiting Apple again without typing it in again. So if I want to open up a new web page, I can tap this icon and it gives me the ability to open up a new tab. That's what this plus sign is for. Now, this is actually a tab. This is a smartphone, so it's pretty small. iPads and on desktops, you will see a tab that will be like a tab file folder along the top. But on a mobile phone, Android or iPhone, it's too small to show those icons, so it shows tabs a little bit differently. I'm going to add a new tab by tapping the plus button down here, and I'm going to go to Microsoft, for example. And if I want to go to Microsoft, I'll tap Go, it found it. So I have Microsoft open as a tab, and I have Apple open as a tab. But how do I get back to Apple? Well, I tap on this little tab marker here, and it shows me I've got Apple open and I've got Microsoft open, and I can go and switch between the two quickly. So it gives me the ability to switch between web pages very quickly. So if I were looking for, say, airfare, and I wanted to look for a flight, and I was checking, say, one airline, and I wanted to check another airline or two travel sites or two shopping sites, I could switch back and forth quickly by using two tabs and just changing and navigating by tapping the tab marker and going back and forth. So tabs are kept indefinitely. They don't use any resources up. But if you ever want to clean up your tabs, you can tap the little X in the upper right-hand corner, and that will delete the tab. So if I go to another text site, I want to add another tab. Let's go to NVIDIA, and we'll find them here. Here's Google search. I'll go to NVIDIA. Now, this is Google search. It brought up Google in search results. So this is a Google search that I'm using, but I'm going to go to NVIDIA here and tap it. So now I've got another one. It asks these days for cookies pretty much consistently. So now I've got three tabs open: NVIDIA, Apple, and Microsoft. If I tap on the tab marker here, they're all there. Okay, Apple, Microsoft, and as you open up new websites using the plus button, you will add tabs to your selection. So it shows I have three, and I can continue to add them indefinitely. Generally, when you click on a link in a web page and go to another web page, it opens up that web page in what's called a new tab. So you may find that when you tap your tab button, you have dozens. I had somebody that had as many as 150 tabs at one time. That's okay. It doesn't use up any resources. It just makes it difficult to navigate and find the ones you want to look at. But they're all available to you anytime you want to use them. And you can access them in any way you want to and set them up for using to make it easy for you to find different things. So NVIDIA, as you know, is big on AI, and they're having a big AI conference coming up there where they do things. So they have announcements and other things. So it's a pretty interesting organization to watch. Any questions about that tab button and the search bar that you can use to search or enter an address? Yeah, EG?
Can you change the default search engine from Google to something else?
Yes, you can. We'll take a little segue here into settings since you asked the question, okay? So I'm going to swipe up on my screen and I'm going to go to the settings icon here, and that will bring up my settings. Now, there's a lot of settings in iPhones. Every app has its own individual setting. So one way you can find Safari is you can scroll all the way down until you find Safari. Right here is where Safari is. Or you can use the search box up on top and type in Safari, and it'll bring up Safari's settings. Either one will get you to that. Now, Siri is part of Apple's technology. You can see it launched Siri right here. And Siri and search are connected. So Siri can learn how you use Safari and make suggestions. You can show the app in search. So if you want Siri to find things, including using Safari, you can just make sure that Safari is turned on. These are the standard settings. I haven't changed these on my phone at all. You can let it show it in the app or show it on the home screen or suggest an app. So Siri will search for things and give you suggestions as it comes across them. The standard settings are perfectly fine. It's more a matter of it's popping up things you don't really care about that you could turn a few things off. My preferred language is English. My search engine is set to Google. So if I wanted to change the search engine, I could tap that, and I'm given some choices here. Not everything, but some. I can use Yahoo for search, or Bing, or DuckDuckGo, or Ecosia. I have the ability to change my search engine to any one of those options if I choose to, but I can't change it to anything else other than those. Search engine suggestions are the way that things popped up when you saw me type in NVIDIA or Apple or Microsoft. You saw it bring up search engine suggestions in the search box. Safari will bring suggestions. A quick website search gives you the ability to search within a website. You can preload the top hit. It'll bring up that website and pop it up, and you can change it so that it will autofill information like your address or passwords. You can save favorites. You can block pop-ups, that's standard. You can add extensions, which are add-ons that give you the ability to extend the capabilities of Safari beyond what Apple gives you. You can change where your downloads are saved. When you download things from your phone, the standard setting is to save them in iCloud Drive. But you can change where you want that to be set as well. And you can change how the tab bar looks. At one time, you could not scroll between different tabs on Safari. There's a tool that lets you do that now. Having the tab bar at the bottom lets you swipe back and forth between tabs. About 2 or 3 operating systems, they upgraded it to this setting, but they still give people the ability to view it as a single tab with the information at the top. It will always open up links. If you tap on a link on a web page, it will open it up in a new tab. So that's why some people get a lot of tabs. And they give you the ability to automatically close tabs after a month. If you haven't visited it, it'll close it. But you can change those settings to anything that you prefer. It's more a matter of personal preferences. The standard settings work really well, and it gives you the ability to work without really having to worry about changing too much unless you want to. So we'll go back to Safari here, and it's back at the web page I was looking at NVIDIA. You can see at the bottom here, this is one tab, the NVIDIA tab is open. And if I swipe from left to right, I go to the Microsoft tab, and you can see I've got a tab to the right now and a tab to the left. So it gives me the ability to swipe quickly between tabs without having to actually hit this tab icon if I don't want to. Obviously, if you had dozens of tabs open, it would take a while to swipe back and forth between them. But if I wanted to open up a new tab, say Amazon, for example, and there was a book I was looking at for one of my classes, or if I wanted to open up, say, Walmart and go to Walmart, and I wanted to open up another tab for, say, Target, I can open up these tabs and I can swipe between them very quickly just by using my finger and swiping back and forth across the tab bar there. Or I can tap the tab button and you can see we have all of these tabs are open now that I can get to very quickly. So understanding how those tabs work is really helpful for navigating on this really small screen. You would normally have a tab across the top row of your browser and iPads and desktops and Android tablets, but you don't have that space, that geography here. Sometimes if you take your phone and you tilt it sideways, it will give you a different view of your web browser. And so you can see here when I tilted it sideways, I do have the tabs across in a more traditional view than I would normally have. But sometimes it's not as convenient. And the share button is at top. The plus button for opening up a new tab is here. The tab bar is here. And my bookmark icon is here. But most people are typically looking at their phone vertically, but don't hesitate to switch to a landscape view on your phone whenever you use it. In any application, you may find a surprise that you didn't realize was there when you changed the orientation of it from portrait to landscape. Okay, any questions about tabs, portrait, landscape, search, browsing, settings? Okay, well, we're just starting. Okay, so now that's the basics. Okay, we've covered a lot of the basics about how to use Safari, and that's what a lot of people do. You can also use Siri to do things. So if I say, Siri does not require Hey Siri anymore in the new version of the operating. So I said, Siri, what is the weather? Let's say, Siri, what's the weather in Toronto, Canada right now?
It's currently cloudy and 47 degrees in Toronto, Canada.
So it actually went to search to find that and pulled that information back. I'm in Fahrenheit settings on my phone, not centigrade, so it pulled it back that way. Hey Siri, find a good Italian restaurant nearby me.
Okay, here's what I found.
Now, Siri will go to maps. So depending on what you ask it to do, it will search the web, it will look at maps, it will look at websites. So you have to be sometimes a little specific. Hey Siri, find a website that has puzzles on it.
Here's what I found.
These are websites that have puzzles on them. So I can go to them and I can show Google results by tapping Google results, and it'll show me different places that I can visit. This is Google search that I am looking at, but I am looking at it through my Safari web browser. And it has the Google search term that I used and a little image from Google Lens here as well, because I am looking at the Google website right now. I'm not looking at another website. I have a tab that's called google.com that's open. So if I want to swipe back to see Target, I can swipe back to see Walmart. I can swipe back to see Amazon. I can swipe back to see NVIDIA or Microsoft or Apple. The next icon that I want to show you is the share icon. The share icon is how you take this web page that you're looking at and share it in some other way. Okay, share is called share because it's not just email, it's not just messaging, it's not just copying, it does a lot of things. So the share icon will do different things depending on what app you're using. So in the camera or photos app, the share icon will do different things than in Safari, but they are very similar. So I'm going to tap on the share icon and it brings up my share screen. Options gives me the ability to send it automatically or as a PDF or as what's a web archive. A web archive is a type of file format, but you can actually send this web page as a PDF file if you choose to now. Automatic will send it as a link. It'll have the uniform resource locator, the URL, and it'll paste that link into whatever you choose to do. And that's how most people choose to share websites. AirDrop is a resource that exists with Apple that allows you to send a document, a file, a link from one Apple device to another. And so it shows that my MacBook Pro is near me and I can send it this web page link to my MacBook Pro. And then it has messaging and contacts for people that I might communicate with. And then it has a whole bunch of other options. I can send it to as a message. And if I open up messages, it'll automatically insert the link in a message. I just have to say who I want it to go to and type in that name. So if I want to send it to myself, I can send it to myself and tap on the blue send icon here. And that'll send that web page link to whoever you choose to send a message to. You can send it as an email. You can send it to a note. You can put it in reminders. You can send it to Edge if you want to send it to another browser. You can send it in WhatsApp. So there's a lot of options for sending that link. Copy makes a copy of the link, which means that you can paste it into anything else you might want to. So if I wanted to open up email and create a new email and paste the link in the email, I can tap on it, I can tap on paste, and it'll enter the link in the email for me. Now, that's a little bit longer than just using the share icon, but it gives you the ability to do it that way. You're copying it into another document. Say you're using Word and you want to paste it into Word. You can add it to a reading list. I like reading list personally because my bookmarks get really cluttered. But one of the advantages of adding a web page to a reading list is that it downloads the content of the web page so that you can read it even if you're offline and not connected to the internet. So let's take a look at my web page here, and we'll go to Bobology and we'll open up the article about aspect ratios here. So if I tap share and I tap add to reading list, it's put it in a reading list. Now I'll get to the reading list by using the bookmark icon, but that's one of the share options. I can bookmark it. I can add it to the favorites. I can make a quick note out of it by tapping on add to quick note, and it'll automatically open up a note for me called a quick note, and I can just tap save, and it's saved to notes right away. Apple does a really good job integrating their applications together. I can search on the page if I wanted to. I can add the page to the home screen. So if there's a web page that you go to often and they don't have an app, for example, but you want to be able to find that, you can add the link to that page as an icon on your home screen. So if I take this and add to home screen and just tap done, you can see now it's created an icon on my home screen, just like an app icon. So it's a fast way to keep a web page so you don't have to open up Safari to get to this, or you can open Safari if you choose to. Either way, I mean, it's just a matter of which is going to work faster for you, but it's a way to speed up your day and make it a little bit easier. You can mark up a web page. So if you want to highlight something, say you see a flight or you see a restaurant and you want to send it to a friend and say, hey, this looks really good. By tapping on markup, it brings up your icons for and your tools for marking up something. And you can then forward that on to somebody and save it as an image if you want to. And you can save it to the file, or it'll create a PDF for you if you choose to do that. Or you can just cancel it if you want to cancel it. And then you can print it if you have an AirPrint capable printer. Apple uses a printer protocol that sits on top of Wi-Fi. That's their own networking utility. And a printer company like my Epson XP640 licensed Apple's AirPrint technology so that it's included with the printer. And as a result, I can print to my Epson printer because my iPhone automatically will recognize it on the network. But if I did not have an AirPrint capable printer, if it was just Wi-Fi, it wouldn't work. So Apple printers have to be AirPrint capable. You can also save a page for later if you want to. If you want to do it, I actually have some tools that are there that aren't standard tools that are listed. And you can search a web page with Google Lens. Even though it's Safari, if you have Google Lens as an app installed on your smartphone, you can actually search a web page with Google Lens. And then if you ever want to edit these actions, you can edit them. If you'd rather have something show up higher on favorites, you can have it show up higher on favorites. You can set and customize these actions if you want to when you tap the share icon. Safari will synchronize through the cloud tabs and web pages you look at and your history with Safari on your Mac and your iPad, but it won't sync with Edge or with Chrome. It does give you the ability to share a web page where we can send it to Microsoft Edge. And Microsoft Edge has a tool called Drop. I showed people when we did Edge on desktop. Drop gives you the ability to see something in a sidebar, or I could open this web page in Microsoft Edge. Now, this is new. I haven't seen this before today. If I want to open this web page in Edge, I can go to Edge and it'll open it up in Microsoft Edge. And I automatically launched Microsoft Edge and this particular web page that I'm looking at. So Edge and Safari are communicating with each other. And that, sometimes people end up using Safari on their phone, but they have a Windows desktop or laptop, not a Mac. And so you can't get Safari on Windows. So this is a really convenient tool for people that work across both Safari and Edge that makes life a little bit easier for them. The bookmarks are where your favorites are kept. Favorites is what shows up when you launch Safari or if you tap in the search box for the first time. If you launch a new tab, these are the favorites that appear. So if you want to save something in favorites, that's where you could save it. You can save specific web pages to your reading list. So here's the web page I saved to my reading list, but here's a few others that I've saved, things that I want to look at a later date. You can also search the reading list as well, which is really convenient because I know I saved a web page. I want to read it later. It's a great way to keep track of things. And then your history icon will show you the history of your web pages that you have looked at if you ever want to see them. Now, if we go back to this web page here, there are some ads that show up. But if I want to change how I look at this web page, I can do a few things by tapping on the little A and the big A. By tapping on the little A and the big A, I bring up a whole new menu. I can manage extensions. There is an extension I have called Mapper that's installed. So when I open up a map in Apple Maps, it gives me the ability to open it up in Google Maps as an option. That's not a common extension, but extensions are added software tools that you can turn on and install in Safari, and you can install them on your iPhone. I use the LastPass password manager. I get a privacy report from Apple. Apple can help you turn on off tracking if you want to, and some cookies and tracking tools that are used. I can adjust website settings for this website. So if I wanted to open up this website, bobology.com, and use Reader automatically or allow it to access the camera, the microphone, or my location, whenever you use Safari with an application, sometimes they ask to use the camera, sometimes they ask to use your microphone, sometimes they ask for your location. It has to ask every time. And then I can request the desktop website if I want to, whenever I look at this. Requesting the desktop website will automatically bring the desktop version of the web page and display it on Safari. Sometimes web pages work better with the desktop view, not usually. But you have the option to adjust those settings. And you have some other options here. You can translate, you can hide the toolbar. This toolbar at the bottom takes up a little bit of space on your phone. Generally, when you're looking at a web page and you start to scroll up, you'll see the toolbar will disappear and it'll just show you the address at the bottom. Won't show you the toolbar. But if you want to get the toolbar to reappear, just swipe down. You can see how the toolbar reappeared here all of a sudden. So swipe up will minimize it. A swipe down will get it to reappear. And then one of the other tools that I like here is I can translate this website. So I can translate it to a couple of different languages. You can set up your preferred language and it'll translate. So if you see a foreign website, you can translate it into English if you choose to. Sometimes that a message will pop up here called Reader View Available. It's quick. So I'm going to refresh this web page. If you're looking at a web page and you want to refresh the data, tapping this little circle refreshes the web page. You can say it says Reader Available and it disappears. I'll do it one more time. Reader Available. If I missed it, I can tap on the double A and I can see that it says Show Reader. I can also adjust the size of the font. If I want to make it larger or smaller, I can change it that way. But if I want to show the reader view, it changes the view of the web page. So it gets rid of all the ads and extraneous material on it. And it gives me the ability to read the article in full without having to do it. Another neat little trick, when you tap the reader view and you're looking at it, you'll see this AA has got a black background. It's inverted. I can adjust the color background on the web page. So if I like it white or ivory or gray or black, I can change the font it appears in for readability. And one of the greatest things about this reader view is I can tap on Listen to Page. So if I tap on Listen to Page.
Making the most of digital calendars. Calendars can help you to organize your time, be more productive, and help you remember important dates and activities. You can manage schedules.
So you can have it read a web page to you. There's a lot of accessibility features built into smartphones. Microsoft, Google, Apple have all really invested a lot in accessibility to make sure that computing is inclusive, regardless of people's abilities. And so the reader view gives you the ability to listen to the page and it'll resume listening, resume speaking.
You can manage schedules, appointments, reminders, and more with a digital calendar. Calendars are included with popular email accounts like Gmail, Yahoo, Mail, Outlook, and iCloud.
And you can adjust the speaking rate as well. So you have a lot of options. The controls give you the ability to adjust the colors, the fonts, the size of the text to make it easier to read if you want to, so that if you happen to be browsing the web and you forgot to have something set up in your settings for accessibility, you have the ability to access it through these tools as well. So just a nice little option. When you want to hide the reader, you just click on Hide Reader and it'll make it disappear. And then you're back to the standard web page. So I've got a web page open on my phone. And I'm going to go to my desktop and show you when I look at my desktop and I hover down to my dock and I scroll over, you'll see a Safari icon at the lower right. That's a second instance of Safari. There's actually Safari on my Mac, but because Apple has a service called Continuity, it says Safari from iPhone. And so if I click on that Safari from iPhone link, it'll open up Safari and it'll open up the web page that I was looking at on my iPhone for me.